Okay, guys, welcome back to another episode of Zoxtalks. I'm your host, Zoxtalks, and I'm actually pretty excited to get into today's episode because the game we're going to actually be talking about today is a game that I feel like for many of you that have been in the mobile gaming scene just as long as I have, we can all attest to the fact that this game was by far one of the cream of the crops when it first came out, and it easily had toppled over any of the competition that was around at the time. And this game is King's Raid. Now, I want to not only just talk about this game in its entirety and how we felt when it first released, but of course now leading up to its re-release, a lot of the information and things that you guys need to know. Now, it's going to also be really important that you guys stick towards the end because we do have some exclusive information for you guys to be able to get your hands on being able to possibly be able to try this game. So definitely make sure you guys stick around. All right. So we're going to go ahead and dive right into it. Now, King's Raid. I know some of you guys that probably started with Genshin coming into the mobile gaming scene are like, what is this game? Right? Now, number one, King's Raid came out in 2017, February of 2017 at that. And this game, I would definitely say, I feel like it revolutionized how mobile gaming was basically done because one of the biggest factors that they brought to the scene and that they made popular was that you did not have to pull for your characters. Now, in King's Raid, what was made to be popular at that time was they basically made it to where in-game currency could be used to just directly buy the character that you wanted. And if you played long enough, the game basically had different systems, content, and also other features that basically allowed you to keep up with this economy. So you kind of almost always had those characters that you wanted. Now, like I said, in the very beginning of King's Raid, it was definitely one of those games that had a ton of playability, replayability even, and a lot of players were just really satisfied with being able to just go in, take any characters that they liked, and being able to, one, build a character because they had X role, but then in other cases, they could build characters to basically supplement other roles if they chose to do so. And that was like the beauty about the game, was that there was a ton of accessibility, there was a ton of diversity, and on top of that, just ease of access when it came down to you being able to experience the game and getting characters. Now, the other thing that actually made the game work extremely well was simply the fact that this game actually had a huge play in timing, right? So timing your abilities was huge. So the way that the game basically played was that you had essentially auto attacks. So for your basic attacks, they were all auto. But when it came down to like your heals or using your ults, or if you had any sort of CC or stuns, you had to basically use those at specific time intervals. And it was so important, in fact, that I think like a vast majority of the beginning of King's Raid didn't even have auto in it. It's like you literally had to basically play the game, and that was just that. It was all basically manual with the, semi-auto that you kind of had. And then you basically had to time everything. But that's what made the game so fun, was that you basically were able to have this experience where it was just so competitive, and free to play could compete with like Wells in the very beginning. And a lot of that accessibility really prompted to just great interaction within the community, but also really challenging content that people were really excited to tackle and to get into and to try to overcome. Now, of course, with that, there was a lot of different factors that kind of came with this, was that even down to the amount of stamina that you had in the game, you could basically and I kid you guys not, you could play King's Raid all day. It was actually possible. They had no issue with giving players stamina. Like I said, resources were just always in abundance. And of course, you obviously still had other things that would kind of dwindle if you used them. But the biggest thing to the game was just simply daily activity. As long as you logged in the game, you basically were getting a good experience from what I would consider to be a mobile game. And I think also what really made this game popular was, at the time, we were getting a lot of different games that were more suited along the lines of the whole pre-cone era. And this was one of the games that felt like an actual game on mobile. And I think that really changed the perspective of a lot of different players when we're talking about like in other countries that necessarily didn't have access to some of the other games that were out at that time. It was definitely a more real JRPG experience with really, really good story. And then, like I said, with a lot of elements that just made it super accessible for you to be able to basically play how you wanted to, right? And then to top it all off, the game actually had really solid cosmetics. So that was another thing that I felt like really tied this title all together. Unfortunately, all of these things came to a ultimate stop, and really the game started to shift in a direction that I don't think a lot of players were really expecting, nor did they want it to go. Now, there was an introduction of a system called the Transcendence. If you guys actually played with that system, you know exactly what that system did. And it basically was this super heavy RNG power-up system that basically, I mean, it really honestly required you to put a ton of currency in it, and it ultimately just became pay to win. And then on top of all of that, a lot of our builds that we had made over the course of X amount of years of playing the game and just kind of developing things over time were broken. And they tried to basically give out tickets so that people could invest more into this newer system. But that ultimately ended up being the very last straw for a lot of players, in the midst of all the things that were going on with the communication that started to die off, a lot of like the kind of like vague promises as far as fixing certain issues in the game. There was just a lot that came at that point in time. And I even remember me and a friend of mine, we used to actually like every time a new character would come out at that time, we would just make new accounts, because if you wanted to really start to play with that new character with their Transcendence gear and all that other stuff, it was just more simpler to do that, which kind of says a lot in, you know, comparison to what I was saying initially at the beginning of this video, right? So with that, ultimately the game's end of service ended up just taking place, and now the game is being completely managed by a completely different company called Masong Soft. And I'm actually pretty excited because they're supposed to be bringing King's Raid back better than ever and revamping a lot of the systems so that they are a lot more manageable and a lot more appealing to us consumers and or players, right? So we're gonna actually hop over into the Discord because we have a lot of information in here that I want to go over and give you guys obviously my thoughts and takes on this, because I feel like the standard norm is like one thing, which they took over the game at the beginning of this year. So in March, they actually had took over and they basically said, hey, we're going to re-release this game. But I also feel like because we're coming to the end of 2025, going into 2026, there are a lot of games that are starting to step away from this gacha format. And if they can keep it kind of similar to what they had, they should be fine. But I think there's a lot of other elements that really matter a ton. And so I want to just, like I said, give you guys my thoughts on that as well. So they go to say here, hey there, I'm Pan Serene, reporting to say hi, familiarize yourself with our devs channel, so on and so forth, right? Now, the very first dev notice that they put in here is, hello everyone, we are King's Raid development team at Masong Soft. Since acquiring King's Raid on March 17th, we've swiftly assembled a dedicated development team and have been diligently preparing to resume the game's service. We deeply value the feedback shared through the Discord and are carefully reviewing your suggestions to reflect them in our future plans. In this first developer's note, we would like to share the direction we're taking for King's Raid under Masong Soft's stewardship. Let us address some of the key areas you've been curious about. So off rip, already a good tone to be setting here, because this is like one of the things, like I said, we are experiencing with Chaos Zero Nightmare right now. The communication from the devs and just being consistent with that is huge. Now, keep in mind, they haven't obviously released the game just yet, but we're on the brink of that, which we'll talk about in a second, right? Now, they go to say at number 1, easing hero growth difficulty. To allow you to nurture and utilize your favorite heroes more freely, we're planning to reduce the difficulty associated with hero progression. We're exploring ways to make unique weapons and unique treasures obtainable through in-game farming content like standard chapters and raids. We'll provide detailed information once these plans are finalized. So this is obviously going to be pretty huge, because if you did not play did not play King's Raid. The Dragon Raids were probably one of the biggest aspects of the game, by the way. So that was definitely a huge component. So if you have more ways to just utilize the gameplay to allow people to get these items in game, that's going to be even better. Now, the thing is that I feel like if they can move more towards being like a AAA title than just a mobile game, that's going to honestly be a really huge selling point to allow them to get back into the space. And like I said, not only bringing back players that have already played the game in the past, but then drawing in some of those new players that have never even experienced or even heard of King's Raid before. Now, they go to number 2 here where it says skill balance improvements for diverse hero combinations. Now, to enhance your combat experience, we're planning partial changes to the skill structures of certain heroes. Our goal is to enable skills to synergize effectively between heroes, moving beyond simple stat enhancement. We are aiming to ensure you won't have to set aside your favorite heroes due to performance issues. This sounds great. I think, again, this is really going to be just all based around their willingness to stay on top of balance, right? I think that, again, if they can kind of streamline that so it's super simple for them, it'll be easier to upkeep. But yeah, I think like if they're trying to enable skills for more synergies so that it's more about the teams you build and not just the individual units, then that actually is going to open up the game a ton to where, like they said, you can continue to use your favorite characters, which was something that kind of died out over time. But if they can get us back to that point, that's just going to be chef's kiss, right? Now, number 3 says revision, okay, to transcendence traits, okay? Now, this was a really big thing within the game as well. This was kind of a part of that whole transcendence era, which, like I said, was just kind of a lot. But it says we received feedback regarding the uniformity of transcendent traits in the final version. While customizing traits for each hero individually could be overly complex, we're considering implementing transcendence traits based on hero classes. This approach would highlight team characteristics through class compositions, adding strategic depth to hero combinations. And I think that that's actually really good to do things like that, because what this does is this takes away exclusivity. What happens a lot of the times in a lot of gachas is, in just games in general, is like, hey, I need this one specific character because they do this one specific thing, and this content requires this one specific thing, and they're the only unit that does that one specific thing, right? So if you can actually build other units to be able to have access to the ability to do X thing, I think that that is always a better metric, and it's also going to get you more people putting money into the game in terms of like getting more premium currency, etc., right? Whatever it may be. Now, they also go to say a more accessible soul weapon system, which, if you guys, like I was saying, the Transcendent soul weapon system, yeah, right. It says many of you expressed a desire to revert to the previous soul weapon system. We dedicated significant time to re-evaluating this feature. Our aim is to prevent any negative experiences associated with the soul weapons. The revamped soul weapon system will focus on redefining their role and improving acquisition and enhancement processes. Soul weapons will no longer be a mandatory progression step and will serve as a means to deepen your connection with your heroes, which I think if they're, like I said, leaning more into the customization aspect, that's going to be huge. Now, it says, additionally, we're planning to remove entry restrictions to the Trial of the God King Soul Weapon Dungeon, allowing unrestricted access to all dungeons. The mystical soul fragments obtained from each dungeon will be categorized by class, significantly easing the process of acquiring soul stones for your desired heroes. Now, again, just to kind of like explain this, these are just more resources to help you like with just developing your unit's strength, right? So what they're doing, and what we used to have limitations on how often you could go into like certain dungeons. So these ones in particular, they're actually going to be removing certain parameters, because you even had to be at a certain part in the game to even use certain systems. So I think that that's actually going to be pretty cool to allow people to just get straight into the action, and really emphasizing this system, like I said, on more of the characters that you want to build versus like having to build a character because they are like a meta unit or required for a certain type of team. I think it's just going to be more impactful, and it's going to keep players around a lot longer, right? Now, the fifth thing that they go to say here is King's Raid is going to be on PC. And this is one of the things that I think a lot of us have seen already. If you have not, they are going to have this accessible on Steam. So you will be able to play on Steam and your mobile device. And this is basically going to be with like enhanced graphics. And then, of course, with higher frame rates, higher resolutions, etc. Right? So really, really huge. I feel like when we're talking about the initial statement that they've made for the game, they finished this first part off to say, we understand your eagerness for this service to resume. However, our goal isn't merely to restart the service, but to ensure sustainable operations with consistent content updates. This preparation may take some time, and we ask for your patience. We're aiming to resume service within this year. At launch, chapters 1 through 6 will be available, with subsequent chapters released every 1 to 2 months. We're committed to addressing the aspects of King's Raid that may have disappointed you, striving to rekindle your affection for the game. Now, that of course is going back to their structure they used to have. It used to be like pretty like big updates every 1 to 2 months. So that definitely seems pretty standard right there, and returning back to that. But they basically say that's all for this specific update. Now, moving a little bit further, okay, before we actually jump into this, I want to just kind of give my overall thoughts on that first initial part, because I know that could be a lot, right? I think it is really important to note that in 2025, one of the biggest things is communication, right? And if there are any King's Raid devs like watching, keep this up. Keep the communication with your community, because I'm telling you right now, that is wholeheartedly going to make your game that much more desirable. It's going to keep players on your game. And like I said, it's not just IP. Like, I don't think IP can just carry games like they used to anymore. Your game actually has to be good. There's plenty of games that have massive IPs, but the game itself is just so bad, the IP just doesn't carry it. People are becoming a lot more smarter with their money and just also their time. And if you really want players' time, you have to consider these factors. I promise you, it is only going to be to your benefit if you really want this game to thrive and do well when it gets re-released, right? And again, I'm willing to give Zoxtalks a chance. I've never had a experience with them, nor have I had, obviously, a bad experience. So I'm kind of interested to see like what they're going to basically be doing, right? Now, some further things that they go and talk about, which we're going to dive right back into that. They have a King's Raid Q&A that they did, and this is from the King's Raid dev team once again. Now they say, hello, this is the King's Raid's development team. Thank you, as always, for your continued interest and support for King's Raid. We've been carefully reviewing all the questions and feedback that players had shared, and we put together this Q&A to address some of the frequently most asked questions. So, now some of the questions that they asked, number one, what platforms will King's Raid be released on? They're coming on PC, for Steam, mobile, Android, iOS, of course, and then they actually plan on having 4K support for this game. Now, the reason why that's a big deal is because I don't know if you guys seen King's Raid. This is like a 7-year-old game, right? So yeah, enhanced graphics is going to be a huge part. Like, you can't re-release this game and it looks like like it came from Nintendo 64. It needs to look good, right? For now, because we have the Genshin Impacts, we have the HSRs, we have the Anatas coming, we have all these massive games, open world games that are coming. Now, the other thing too with that, and I'm gonna give you guys my thoughts on that in a second, but number 2, it says, previous gameplay data be carried over? And they say no, since King's Raid will be a newly serviced by Zoxtalks, previous gameplay data unfortunately will not be linked or restored. We understand this may be disappointing for many of you who have invested time and love into your heroes. However, we're doing the utmost to improve areas that were previously inconvenient and are focusing on delivering a refreshed experience and full of excitement. So please look forward to it, right? Now, will I still be able to recruit heroes the same way? And they say yes, the core King's Raid experience of recruiting heroes from the end will remain. Additionally, just like said before, guaranteed recruitment via the special shop will still be available. Oh my God. I don't think you guys like the end was like so busted in this game. I forgot about that actually. The end would have basically allow you to get like you would have like a random hero show up there and you could like pick to choose if you want to like build a bond with them. And once you got their affinity, I think all the way to max for that, whatever it was within that interaction, you basically could recruit them. And it was like the most free to play thing ever because it could just be just some of anybody that would show up. And it would be like the coolest thing because again, it was not requiring gacha. So even before gacha games came into play, like there were games that were super successful without gacha and people and players loved them. I think it just got to the point where it's like companies got a lot more greedy, right? It's like, how much more money could we be making if we did this? And I think, unfortunately, the ignorance at that time was what really allowed those games to thrive. But I'm glad that they're staying true to that system because that wholeheartedly made the game work. Now, they say, can you share more details on the Transcendence rework? Like I said, right? Now, as mentioned in our previous dev note, the Transcendence system will continue to allow each hero to maintain their unique identity, while certain aspects will be adjusted for a better balance. You'll be able to choose the growth path aligned with either light or dark. And with the total of 5 stages of progression, we're aiming to make Transcendence more approachable while also reducing the performance gap between Transcendence and non-Transcendence heroes in a more player-friendly way, right? Now, number 5 says, will soul weapons be returning and how are they changing? Now, they go to say again, soul weapons will be included with the content available up to chapter 6. However, we are redesigning them to be an optional enhancement that lets you express affection to your favorite heroes rather than a mandatory power gate, right? So they're removing all of the gates that the game had. Now, because Soul Weapon Update is tied to the previously planned class-themed Transcendence overhaul, some elements of the Trial of the God King Soul Weapon dungeon may change. That said, our overall direction remains the same. Lower the barrier to entry for acquisition and upgrades. Details are still being finalized, so this is as much as we can share for now. Now, they also go to say, will pets raiders return? Yes, the raider system will be launched in its original form, but it will be redesigned into a more appealing and well-balanced feature before its re-release. While specifics are still under discussion, we are reviewing areas that were previously considered unbalanced or inconvenient. Since the design is still in the planning phase, we'd love to hear your suggestions and feedback. Your input will help shape what's to come, right? So again, another really good notice that they actually shared in here as well. And what I feel like is, again, another huge point to make with what this game had, it was not shy in content, right? Like the amount of content that King's Raid had was pretty nuts, but like what I was getting to before was like, they definitely have to make sure that they make their mark with removing those gates, because that's the easy kill your game, right? And I think that that's what we start to see. That was like one of the first starts to it. Having those types of gates or parameters where it's like, because you don't have X resource or item, you can't do things in the game. That's always going to kill your game. This has happened to Dragon Blaze. This has happened obviously to the older version of King's Raid. So again, it's going to be so imperative that they do this properly. Now, for the last portion here, and I want to just scroll down to the bottom. They want to say that down here, even after the launch, we'll continue to monitor balance closely and prioritize adding heroes with the roles needed to ensure smooth party composition across all attributes. Because they actually noted that there's different roles or what classes people are going to be playing. I'm not going to go through all of these because people may not or may know who these characters are. We'll have to get into that in a whole nother segment, in a whole nother video. But just to kind of give you classifications, they have knights, they're going to have warriors, assassins, archers, mechanics, wizards, priests, and then of course there's going to be magic fizz. And then there's the respective units. Some of us obviously know, like the Castle, the Lunas, Empis, Marianne, right? Like those units are all going to be coming back. Now, I'm going to presume that as the game like continues, they're going to essentially start releasing their own units under Masong Soft. And I'm assuming the first like order of business for them is going to be getting these older units out, right? Because obviously there was a big chunk of time for a lot of these original units. And then of course there were the units over the years that had came out from update to update. So I'm assuming they're going to probably redo, maybe even revamp and change some story elements, which that could also be pretty cool as well. So again, there's a lot to come with King's Raid. Now, before we go into our final thoughts, I want to make sure that we go over the website, because this is your chance to be able to possibly get your hands on King's Raid for the early access / CBT that they're going to be doing. Now, with this, they are on the official website, which I will have linked down below, taking apps for this CBT, which will be accessible Steam, Google Play, Apple App Store. Now, luckily for you guys that are watching, I'm actually a partner creator. You see that right here? I'm actually a partner creator with them, and they are giving us 3 Steam keys to be able to give away. Now, if you guys want to be able to enter in for that, make sure that you like this video, you share it, and you also comment down below your fondest memory with King's Raid or what you're excited for with King's Raid, because I think that this is going to be a great opportunity for those of us that have been waiting around for King's Raid to like do something and breathe, and even a great opportunity for those of you guys that have never experienced the title to be a part of a community that I honestly have always thought was pretty friendly and very welcoming. Now, the winners will be announced when they announce their official start date and end date for the CBT / early access. Of course, like I said, guys, make sure you guys turn on your post notifications and just pay attention, just in case if you are one of the recipients, to your comment that you put down below, because we will be responding there. All right. Now, also on the website, and this is going to take just a little bit of a second down memory lane, the characters, dude, because I'm not going to lie. Like when I came here and I seen Klaus, dude, like this dude brought back so many memories. Like, he was just the tank to have. Like, I mean, granted, you started out with him. You could get him basically, like, it was, I mean, most of the characters were free, but you just kind of started the game out with him. Dude was just a god as the game progressed, man. And he was a physical unit. He was absolutely insane. I think my magic tank that I liked using was Mora. Like, she was one of my, easily probably way more of a favorite than for me than Klaus was. I used her in everything I possibly could. Like, there was no ifs, ands, and buts. If I could bring her, she was coming in there. Also, even just down into the like assassins, one of my favorite assassins was Epis. Epis was so sick to me, and I mean Roy was pretty cool, but Epis just did something. I mean, obviously Scythe chick, right? She was just really cool, really cool character. And then of course, like even with the healers, like we had sorry, not that mages, that's healer right here. We had Frey, who was one of the freebie like characters that you got at the very beginning. She was just insane. Her and Castle were just really cool to me because they ended up getting like their dark forms later down the line, and they were just so busted, and it kind of almost like changed how you use them too. So it was just really fun to create different synergies and have different setups and stuff like that. So I am so hyped to see King's Raid coming back. Again, guys, this is not a sponsored video, by the way. This is not sponsored. This is just, again, when I seen and caught whiff of this game coming back, I was like, I got to do a podcast on it. I got to talk about it, and I got to present this to you guys, because I honestly genuinely think that if this company does everything right, everybody is absolutely going to enjoy and love this game. Because I mean, for all of us that have been in mobile gaming for a while now, I could at least say most people that played King's Raid loved it, right? Now, of course, with that, getting into our final thoughts, man. One of the things that I think is going to be really important, especially because, again, we're talking about 2025 going into 2026, is how you can make your game as replayable as possible. I think the more that they can lean into replayability, the bigger the success of this game and the longevity of this game will be. I feel like this is the #1 thing. Honestly, Masong, just friendly advice, word of advice. Please, if you do anything, I don't know, if somebody wakes up and is feeling a little bit more money hungry, just don't do it. right? I feel like now, especially, communities are just way more hypersensitive to any odd or weird looking movements, and people are going to absolutely dip. Okay. I really want, again, like I said, to see this game succeed, but I think the industry is completely changed. We're seeing, like I said, a lot of games coming to the forefront that are really leaning more into gacha game, or sorry, not having gacha gaming, and they're looking at how can we create more systems where players can farm X resource. There's, if we are going to do a gacha, it's going to be cosmetic, or, it's not going to be something that's invasive to require them to be able to experience the game. And I just think that that's just because, again, in gacha, and really for what it's worth, just mobile gaming, there has been so much abuse done and so much damage done to the players. I really am looking forward to seeing you guys open up an opportunity for players to have a game again where they can just enjoy themselves. And I'm hoping that King's Raid is really going to be at the forefront of doing that. And again, I'm super, super excited for those of you guys that are, like I said, OGs like myself that came up off of, King's Raid and that whole experience. But nonetheless, guys, that's going to be that for this pod. Let me know how you guys feel in the comment section down below. Do not forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more podcast episodes. We're going to be, like I said, doing this with a lot of different games. Obviously, some of the ones that we covered mainly on the channel, but then also ones that are going to be coming that I'm extremely excited about, that maybe even some of you guys are extremely excited about. And I'm also going to be featuring a lot of different individuals on this channel for all of these different games. So like I said, you just don't want to miss it. It's going to be one of the few places that is doing this in the space and really shining light on a lot of the things that we enjoy. So with that being said, guys, again, it's your host, Zoxtalks, signing off, and I hope you guys have an amazing and blessed day. All right, guys, take it easy.